you, Madam Speaker. I rise to reflect on what's been happening on the eastern shore of Hobart and the closed council decision meeting at the Clarence City Council on last night, I believe, around the extension of the development for Shandong Chambroad petrochemicals on the Kangaroo Bay site. That is such a controversial project, and it's been going on since 2015. It's received a huge amount of support from the Liberals and state and federal governments. It received a federal government grant of $5 million in funding towards a so-called Jobs and Growth Plan for the Kangaroo Bay Hotel Hospitality Centre. That was the proposed development. It received $2.5 million worth of prime waterfront land in Bellerive from the Tasmanian Liberal government. It's received untold amounts of support from the Coordinator General in the secret dealings that were undertaken between the developer, a Chinese petrochemical company, and Hunter Developments, who undertook the design and project management for what's happening there. What we've got is a development that hasn't started. It was totally unsupported by the community because it completely contradicted the existing community-owned, community-established and Tasmanian Planning Commission endorsed a planning development for the Bellerive Bay area. Now the design, as has been agreed by council, doesn't have public open space, is twice the height of what the Community Development Tasmanian Planning Commission height limits for that area are, and it is a monster of a problem for parking and for traffic management in the Bellerive community. Leaving all of that aside, Madam Speaker, what we have is a situation where a company has now twice received an extension, I believe for another 11 months, to continue with their activities. And we've got we've got UTAS weighing in to provide succour to this Chinese petrochemical company and to give them a lifeline. The money that we have spent as taxpayers forwarding the aspirations of this Chinese petrochemical company to establish a so-called hospitality centre extends not just to the $5 million grant that they received, but also to $200,000 that went to TasTAFE to investigate. TasTAFE, through Drysdale's Hospitality Training Centre, were allegedly to supply the hospitality training services. After $200,000, and I confirmed that with the Minister in budget estimates this year, after $200,000 was spent, TasTAFE realised that they weren't capable of delivering master's level hospitality training. It took them $200,000 to make that amazing discovery. It quite beggars belief that it took them so much money and so long to do something which ought to have been written down in their business plan. But TasTAFE has walked away from this project, and now UTAS has come in and signed an MOU with Kangaroo Bay. Well, shame on them, Madam Speaker, for not doing proper due diligence. Shame on them for not looking at the real environmental impacts and the community controversy around this development. Shame on them for who gets to benefit from this. By the university's statement, they say it's going to have a profoundly positive influence on our economy and society. Well, for whom? For whom? For the Chinese petrochemical, we understand there will be no Tasmanian people who will be trained at this hospitality centre. It'll be full fee-paying Chinese nationals who are being trained at a hospitality centre which is being put on Tasmanian land that's been gifted to a Chinese petrochemical company against all the support of the community. How are we winning? how are we winning? We're just outsourcing hospitality training to a foreign country. What are we getting out of this for Tasmania? Other than it'll be great, some people think, to have a building built in that space. Well, that's what the community wanted. They wanted a development. They wanted it to be the height of the planning scheme, and they wanted it to be for the benefit of their community with a public open space that should have been there. Instead, it's being gobbled up by a hospitality centre that most residents understand is more likely to be used as long-term accommodation for people who come out here, Chinese students who may wish to stay and become permanent residents. Well, that's nice. But, you know, who is winning out of this? Certainly not the residents of the Eastern Shore, certainly not people from Bellerive and Rosny Hill. And this continues to be conducted in absolute secrecy. Closed meetings of Clarence City Council, ratepayer-funded trips to China to beg cap in hand, as Mayor Chipman did earlier this year, and it's not what the Kangaroo Bay community have wanted, and it is certainly something that this Liberal Party have been pushing for, actively pushing for, and it just speaks volumes about where their interests lie, which is handing over public land to private companies, petrochemical companies. We should have no part of inviting companies like that to set up residence in Tasmania. We are meant to have a brand for a clean green image. And so not only has the Liberal government got on board behind this, but it's now really disappointing to see that the Vice-Chancellor has signed off and the Council has signed off on an MOU with this company, and it's not in the state's best interest.
Thank you.